Hello, everybody. Who is here? Let me see. Oh, Brandon. I see Brandon, Antonio already joined in. Tamara. This is cool. Welcome to the Voixtek Masterclass, and I hope you guys are getting ready to learn a lot about voice and about what happens with the vocal cords. I see that you guys are all connecting on time. Hey, Constantine, Mackenzie, Patricio, Mariana, Sergio, everybody's here. That's great. I like that. As you know, Voixtek is just an application for everybody to start learning how the body works and how the vocal cords are being controlled, not just by the air that travels through the vocal cords, but also by how you manipulate the body. In the meantime, let's see who else is joining. Slatko, Alina, Jamie. All righty. Okay, so until everybody else gets to join in, I'm gonna introduce a video from the master, from Ron Anderson. There's an institutional video that I'd like to everybody, as everybody joins in, and we can start the conference and go directly to the point. I'm gonna share, hey, Tonio, thank you. I'm gonna just share with you guys this video, and we will be back so that we can start talking about the voice and the vocal cords. So I'm gonna share my screen here, and here we go.
My travels around the world, teaching and coaching people from many countries, across all continents. I have learned that no matter your language, culture, or style of music, singing is universal, as it touches the human spirit like no other instrument can. I wish I could reach everyone individually, but that would be impossible. Now I can. So I invite you to travel without leaving the comfort of your own home. Experience it for yourself and open this gift of life you have. You can transform to sing as the human you are, from the height and depth of your natural being, a voice that embraces humankind in harmony.
Mr. Ron Anderson, the man.
I really sincerely believe it extended my career.
Who can vocal coach a market?
He makes my voice just richer.
He saved me countless times.
Thank you for really helping me to grow and get better.
I've been absolutely amazed at what he's taught me in a very short period of time.
He's a vocal ninja.
We sing night after night, 2.5 hours in a row.
He's the man to go to. He's the only one to go to. Trust me.
The techniques just start to come natural.
It absolutely changed my life.
He helped me hit notes that I didn't know I could hit.
Kind of singing guru.
Even the doctors were like, wow.
Having witnessed that, I'm extremely impressed with his results.
Creating a new way to sing while getting the same end result and without ever hurting myself.
It's good discipline, but his technique works. You know, I think if you find something that works for you, stick to it.
I've improved more than what I've improved in 10 years.
Ron saved my career, basically.
The technique that he's taught me has stuck with me.
Saved my voice.
Your brain and muscles operate to function, to sing correctly.
The change was drastic and remarkable.
If you practice these exercises, it's amazing what happens.
It's amazing because now I feel like I control my singing. My singing doesn't control me.
My voice is opening up like it's never opened up before.
What I call the maestro.
I thoroughly recommend you check out Ron Anderson's app or Ron Anderson in real life in any way you see fit, because your voice will change and your life will change and you can keep rocking forever.
I spent many months and hours training my voice.
well, see, everybody's is listening to me and everybody's hearing me. Well, we're going to start talking about what the voice means. And first of all, I'm going to start talking and telling you all about who am I. My name is Perez. My real name is Felipe. And I just started being very passionate about the voice because a long time ago, when I was a kid, I was in my room by myself, and always I had this passion for the voice. I don't know why. When I was a kid, I started learning the vowels and learning English, and that to me was the very first vowel modification that I discovered. Because even my English teacher, when everybody was in fifth grade and I was in third grade, the English teacher would take me to the fifth graders to explain to them why in English the I was pronounced as E in Spanish and vice versa. So all those changes were very difficult for everybody to understand. So when I was in my room listening to rock stars and to pop albums, I was very impressed about the way that the singers would sing for 2.5 hours without any problem. And that to me was like, how can they satisfy an audience and not hurt themselves? Because I was in the room trying to scream and nobody was being telling me what was happening with their voices. So long story short, then I came to the United States. I started working here in the dental industry because I became a doctor. And I met Ron Anderson. And when Ron Anderson, that was the most magical moment of my life, because when he told me that he was the one that was training Axl Rose, I was like, wait a minute, we need to get together and we need to start working together. So now 20 years later, it's been just every day going to studios and trying to help artists. And I started to understand little by little what was going on with the voice and what was Ron doing with the artist. So basically we became plumbers of the voice, because every singer that was having trouble trying to get into the studio singing a song and they were getting a blockage, they had to go for call for an emergency. And when we went there, I started to understand that the voice lessons and all the keys of the piano were not the part that everybody was paying attention to directly. What Ron was doing was modifying the behavior of the body to make the changes in the way the sound happened, and so that the singers could have a really strong and powerful voice with no interruptions. Because most of them were starting to develop all this type of nodules and cysts and getting in trouble. So who is Ron Anderson? Ron Anderson has been working for 50 years in the industry. He's been training everybody, and he has been going to every studio in the planet to make changes into the voices of those that are in need. That when he first told me that all these artists were in trouble, to me, the word trouble was like, okay, what is trouble? What is happening in the voice? And most of them were like, well, I don't know. All of a sudden, I just lost my voice. I was singing, I was on stage, and my voice just went out. So after many years of going to every single studio, I started to learn that what was going on is that Ron was having a very methodological approach to how he trained the voices. And that method was done from his experience as an operatic held and tenor. He became an opera held and tenor through a whole life experience, because first, when he was 16 years old, he had trouble with his voice. He had to go to an island by himself to do the vocal rest. Why vocal rest? Because everybody was afraid that something was going to happen to his voice. He was only 16. There was going to be a lot of lawsuits involved. There could be many changes in the deals, whatever was happening with his voice. So they set him out to vocal rest, as everybody does when you go to an ENT. They tell you, you have to go and do vocal rest. Well, what happened then is that he decided to go on a world tour himself, but not to sing. He went on a world tour to visit every vocal coach in the planet to understand about the voice, what was going on in his voice and why did he lose it. So after that, all this experience led to him training the voices. And when I started working with Ron, we understood that the behavioral patterns and the dynamic flow that happens within the body is what really affects how the sound works. In the end, we all are a wind instrument. That wind instrument is what happens from our belly all the way to our head. And most of us are always trying to push the notes through the throat, through the muscles that are surrounding our neck. So what happened is that the struggle in the voice, is something that we don't even understand. The word for singers is a thought. It's when the singers were the best, you were supposed to be the best. You were supposed to be somebody that already knew how to sing. And when we started seeing that the changes in the voice were happening because the changes in the throat were making a difference in how you were pronouncing the voice, then even the greats started developing nodules and started making the breaks happen in the vocal cords. So it's more common than you think, and it's something that even professionals suffer from all the time. So everybody that starts this journey of becoming a singer, you all have the capacity to open up your internal musculature. This is more about internal ergonomics and not about external ergonomics. They'll tell you that we have to be opening our chest or raising our shoulders, but nobody's telling us how to direct the airflow that's going through our vocal cords when this situation happens. When we get that blockage, that's going to lead into vocal cord nodules. So, Patricia, do you have a question in the chat?
No.
Okay, so let me see where we are now. Okay, so for all of you that are just joining in, I think everybody is in now. Let me see the list. Yeah, everybody's in the room now. So we're going to be sharing first a video that's going to start to explain to you how the body works. What is that instrument? Our instrument is the full body. Our instrument is not just the vocal cords. Yes, we use the vocal cords because the vocal cords vibrate and the vocal cords produce a frequency of sound. But when we start raising the pitch and that the aspect of the fluidity of the sound within our instrument, you have to recognize which areas of your body are the ones that are going to be affecting that sound. So let me share with you guys this video so that everybody starts to understand the instrument from the get-go. I'm going to share my screen again, and you guys are going to see what happens in the body as you are raising your pitch.
Anatomical Glossary Overview Part 2 Abdomen. The abdomen is the core part of the body, which is used for the support system, also referred to throughout the program as the push-out or pelvic press. Diaphragm. The diaphragm is the dome-shaped muscle that separates the chest and the abdomen. It is the primary muscle used for breathing, or better yet, breath control. Respiratory system. Lungs. The lungs are the organs that regulate the pressure of airflow. Bronchioles. The bronchioles are the conduits that channel the much-needed oxygen to the rest of the body. Thoracic cage. The thoracic cage is the combination of the ribs and the surrounding muscles. Spinal cord. The spinal cord is the link between the body and mind. It regulates the central nervous system, conducting the affairs of regulation of motion. That is, the control of muscles that are needed for the optimal or ideal projection of sound. Vocal folds. The vocal folds, often called the vocal cords, are the gate that regulates the passage of air from the lungs to the resonant chambers. The resonant chambers are your oral and nasal cavities, as well as the back of the head. The larynx. The larynx is what holds the vocal folds in place. It is the mechanism that causes the vocal folds to, if done properly, relax, or, if done improperly, contract. Jaw. The jaw is the articulating bone which opens the oral cavity for projection of sound that pertains mostly to the lower notes and the speaking voice. Lips. The movement of lips controls the facial muscles, which regulates the release of air and gives the shape to the vowel and consonant sounds. Tongue. The tongue is also utilized in shaping the vowel and consonant sounds. The tongue, along with the resonant chambers, is the primary tool used for vowel modification. The tongue also is used for placement of sound. That is, the feeling or sensation of the sound within the body. Nasal cavity. The nasal cavity is the area related to the projection of sound that pertains mostly to the higher notes. It eliminates the strain on the vocal folds, relieving the pressure on them. Brain. Without a brain, none of this works. It is the brain that makes it all happen. It is the area of emotional and mental stimulation. Much of our well-being, health, and creative flow centers here. In the brain, we learn to train the mind on how to condition the body. That is, to send the commands to the rest of the body to be in perfect synchronicity. And this we give to you.
So why Voixtek is different than every other methodology? I wanted this to be so fantastic for everybody, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understood the voice. When you look at the body, the system of the body is making everything happen, because if you consider yourself that wind instrument, you are going to stop all the damage in the cords themselves. Basically, when you saw the body and what was happening with the video, it was showing you the different parts of the body that are needed for the production of sound. So first of all, we have our abdomen, we have our diaphragm, and we have our lungs. These are the motors that are going to make everything happen for your voice. How to prevent the struggle? What we're doing at Voixtek has been a situation of 20 years of experience, more than 20 years of experience. It's been 50 years with Ron Anderson. It's been 20 years with me. What we did was basically combine the two efforts, what's the art and the science of singing. And throughout the years, we've been able to go through every concert and every studio, from studio to studio, to represent what we are saying. And what we're saying is that most of the singers that have been in trouble have had the opportunity to understand why the Voixtek method has changed their lives. And it changes their lives because most of us, when we start to sing, we sing from the throat. We sing with the vocal cords. We have our brains all connected to our vocal cords. when that happens, we all push to try to get to the note. We never understand how to override that system. We have a system of muscles here from the sternocleidomastoid to all the muscles that are underneath the jaw that are holding the throat and the Adam's apple completely at bay, completely in a relaxed balance between the muscles that are in the upper cavity and the muscles that are below the lower part of the thyroid. So when we start to understand how the procedural effect of the musculature that is in the abdominal cavity and how to represent that muscular cavity to make sure that we balance the forces between the neck and the abdominal muscles, then we start to understand how that airflow will never be stopped as it goes in and it goes out. And when that is embedded into your bones, embedded into the procedural effect of doing the exercises day by day, you are going to be seeing how the openness starts to happen, how the throat starts to open, and how the larynx starts to go into an angle. When that angle is happening, we are making sure that the cords are being flexible. And when the cords are being flexible, those cords are going to allow the full passage of air that's going to start traveling into our resonating cavities. What are our resonating cavities? Our resonating cavities are the second floor of not the mouth, but the nose. When we open the cavity in the posterior side, it becomes like the yawn. The yawn itself becomes the reservoir that makes the sound happen into the second floor, into the nose. And that's how we start to project all the sound through the nasal cavity. It's true that you don't need the nasal cavity for everything. You just need the nasal cavity and understand that dynamic when the nasal cavity is to be involved only through the right application of exercises. When those exercises start to become a norm and you practice these exercises, then the fluidity of the balance of forces becomes what your body is going to understand as a production of sound as you become a full instrument, the full instrument being the body. So we're going to start to explain that. I'm going to try now to show you another video that will represent the balance of forces and how that is what's going to make you change the dynamic of the sound. You will see. Let me share the content again.
Voixtek. Student instruction, distribution of forces, abdominal support or push-out, and avoiding larynx blockage. The push-out is one of the most simple but profound techniques that you will encounter throughout your instructional journey. Through the daily practice of this student instruction, you will develop the ability to recognize the relationship of the abdominal muscles and the larynx. This relationship is important for the distribution of forces or muscular efforts that are needed to optimize the control and quality of sound. As you ascend the scale, push out the lower abdomen. This controls the air travel while preventing you from inadvertently tightening the throat muscles, which would restrict the airflow. Again, it is important to remember that you will encounter many other techniques which will work in conjunction with the push-out. And remember, to make this technique second nature, consistency is key. You must practice this technique daily. It only takes a few minutes each day, a small investment of your time.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I hope that video came through really well. If you have any questions, let's start answering the questions. I think this is going to be a much better thing. I can go into the questions and answers, and let's see. Okay, Sergio, let's see. Okay, we have a question here from Tamara Shoemaker. What is the best time to warm up during the day? Okay, let's go piece by piece. What's happening is that your voice, when you start warming up, you don't need to warm up based on the keys of the sound of the piano by itself. What we want to do is to go line by line into the position of the voice. So in the morning, after you have breakfast, when you have a little bit of protein in your body, you're going to start to realize that the energy that goes into your body is going to be also parallel to the energy that you have in your vocal cords and in your body. So when you do the exercises, if you have not had anything to eat, the best thing to do is after breakfast, at least 1 hour from it, so that you can start in the morning to warm up. But during the afternoon, the best time is because your voice has already been warmed up from speaking to everybody throughout the day. So that it's the best time to warm up your voice, usually at night, or if you're going to be recording, you can be warming up at least 1 hour before the recording process starts. Okay, Anonymous says because the webinar is not, yeah, I see that. Okay, Mariana Padilla, I'm taking, what is your experience, what in your experience makes the singers hurt themselves? What happens with the singer hurting themselves is because they try to push. We have never been taught that pushing the note is not something we should do. What happens is that every time we try to reach, we are reaching with your throat. And if you're reaching with the throat, you are making sure that the cords themselves get tense. If you're trying to reach the note with your throat, you are going to make the collision of the vocal cords happen too fast and too tight. So that's why you need to always open up the throat and make the exercises that open the yawn physically. If that physicality starts to be embedded inside of you, you are going to be able to keep the vocal cords going into a lower direction and making sure that the vocal cords are more flexible, which then is going to allow that air to travel through the vocal cords with no closing the gate. If you close the gate to the vocal cords and you close the gate to the air is never going to travel through and resonate in the rest of your cavities. So that is what you need to be doing. Let's see, another question. Okay, Mackenzie Knox, how do you develop your falsetto? That's a pretty good question. Most of the artists try to go for the falsetto feeling inside the vocal cords. What we're doing here is trying to make people understand that the falsetto is not only done through the vocal cords. Yes, you can do it through the vocal cords, but if that vocal cord is tired and you have been singing for a while, that falsetto is not always going to be under your control. Why? Because that confidence is going to be going away. And if you start to understand how the physicality of the instrument itself, it starts to open up more and more. And I'm talking physicality, I'm talking about openness of the musculature. Because what happens with the openness of the musculature is that every time that you are sending a note, you are expanding your internal ergonomics, as I mentioned before. So what I'm going to set an example for this. If you start going into a frequency of sound through the scales and you start going in a very simple exercise, which is the verbal sound, that the one that we start with every single artist, you're going to start to open your throat this way. You're going to lower the throat. Why lowering the throat? Again, when the vocal cords are attached to the front of the throat, the vocal cords are going to go down and they're going to relax, allowing the passage of air to be very, very light. So the example is going to be set here. If I start going, you will never hurt your vocal cords in that space. But if the production of sound that your body is emanating, if you're starting to feel the note, but you're going into the pushing of the notes through the throat, and you start going, it closes the throat so much that the cords themselves lose their quality, because it's like closing a gate, literally like closing a gate. If you have a hose, which we inside, the human body inside, as you could see in the video before, that hose is the whole throat going down into the pharynx and going down through the trachea that goes into the lungs. That hose in itself has a surrounded system of muscles. If those muscles are not under your control, you're always going to allow the throat or the Adam's apple to start to go up. When that Adam's apple starts to go up, you are going to close that gate. So why it is so important that all the exercises that we execute throughout the session of warm-up are opening the musculature and not so much focusing on the sound itself. Because if I'm paying attention to the sound, I could go into the piano and I say, okay, this, I can go. But then when I go into a more intense frequency, I can go. And most people do that because they're raising the larynx. When that happens, all you need to do is start thinking, how do I change that dynamic? How do I change that habit? That habit is changed by opening a yawn inside of you. And what does that mean? What is a yawn? Well, is doing this. Lowering the whole larynx, like if you were just taking air just in a gasp. And then once you do that, you keep that larynx low and you go, all of you touch your larynx here right now, your Adam's apple, and do that. And see how the larynx drops. See how the Adam's apple drops. And then when you're going to be doing the exercises, you are going to start counteracting yourself. You're going to go against yourself because your throat usually is going up. But if you go down in the opposite direction and we are opening the vocal cords are going to allow that air to travel. And that way we're going to be able to go. And that air traveled without touching the cords or the cords touching themselves. The air touches the cords, but not the cords themselves. So the airs are going into a very dynamic fluidity, allowing that air to travel through with no blockage. That is a safe and sound training mechanic. So this is only the first exercise, but it is important that now that we have seen at least the video with all the interruptions that we had before, I'm getting more comfortable now that no interruptions have happened, and I am happy that we're flowing with this now. You have to understand that the dynamic flow of the body as an instrument, it's what's going to alleviate your vocal cords from ever happening or having a problem or an issue in the future. So always that consistent application of musculature opening, it's what's going to allow you to go into the resonant chambers to eliminate any type of trouble in your vocal cords, because if that becomes a chronic effect, you are going to start developing, maybe in 2-3 years time, a nodule, which is going to become a real problem, not only in your throat, but also in your confidence and in the longevity of you as a singer. Let's see another question. Let me take a look at this. Okay, if there's anything we can drink that can help us in the morning. Hydration is very important for the body. You have to constantly keep hydrating yourself. But when I go back again to the dynamics of the voice, if you have a normal energy factor in your body and you have been feeding yourself well, there's never going to be a problem with the vocal cords. So this is what's important about this. When you start to understand the dynamic of the exercises and you start to understanding that just opening inside and keeping the frequencies of sound correctly and the positioning correctly, you're never going to have a problem just because you drank something better or worse. Or the only thing that you have to pay attention to really is that if that dries your vocal cords, then those vocal cords are not going to have enough flexibility. But when you drink like whiskey or wine, you are going to dry your vocal cords. So basically just hydrate with water. That's all you need to do. Coffee also is going to dehydrate the vocal cords. Let me see another question here. Mariana Barrier, I'm really confused about pushing the belly out. Okay, Mariana, thank you for asking again, because we started with the wrong foot, but now I'm going to explain it with more calm. So what happens is, if I am going, and I'm going to set up the same example that I did with the verbal sound, because with the verbal sound, we're opening the cavity and hearing the throat, right? So if I'm going, I'm lowering the muscles of the Adam's apple, and I'm lowering the muscles that are called the sternothyroid muscles. Those muscles are bringing the Adam's apple down in an angle that is going to allow the air to continue to travel. But how do I keep that balance of forces? What is happening in my neck that is always trying to, hey, go up, go up? How do I balance that? So to answer your question, Mariana, the dynamic flow that you need to start to understand is that as I go into the sound, my belly is going to start activating, so that activation, as the pitch starts to go up, that activation is in the belly, being the apogeo. That's what's going to support the sound, and that's what's going to start your body from implementing the constriction in your throat all the time. So as we go in the upper cavity, we're going to go. You guys can see my belly here. I don't know if I can expose my belly here, but you're going to go. Shit. I'm sorry. Around this place, you're going to start pushing more pressure into the abdominal cavity, so that you replace the forces that are going into your throat. Okay? I hope that answered your questions. Thank you, Constantine. Yes, everything. This is just an experience. So we'll see how we can improve the best for the next one. Mariana, what exactly is the middle of the belly? Okay, I go back to the video that I explained or that I played for you guys before. The diaphragm is located here. The diaphragm is a round muscle. There's a dome-shaped muscle that's right here. And the abdominal muscles are keeping that consistency of the diaphragm being low when you push them out. When you push the abdomen out, as you're sending in the note, you're gonna go. What happened there was that through the abdominal muscles being pressed out, the diaphragm stays low. If the diaphragm stays low, you're gonna keep all the air that's going inside your lungs being more flexible. Why more flexible? Because you're not releasing that air in one take. The air is not being expelled really, really quick. It's not going fast. When the air goes out fast, this situation in the throat starts to happen. It starts to close in such a way that the ports start to rub themselves. And when you keep the abdominal muscles out, those abdominal muscles are gonna keep the lungs open. By keeping the lungs open, that airflow is going to be very, very light going into your cavities. So that in itself is the situation that happens with the push out. When we are teaching you the training through the Voixtek application, we are guiding you so that you go on each interval of every note to go push out. Why is that? That doesn't mean that you are going to be pushing your abdominal muscles in every single situation. You just doing the exercises so that your body starts to get used to the positioning where it lies, so that you keep consistent the diaphragm being low and the lungs being full of air, so that all that goes out from your mouth in both your nose and in your mouth, it's going to be super consistent, and it's going to be what we call the Bernoulli effect. The Bernoulli effect is the situation when you place a ping pong ball into a flow of air, and that ping pong ball stays floating consistently. So when you start practicing the exercises and you start keeping that consistent application of the push out as the interval happens, you are going to allow yourself to keep a consistent flow of air through your throat. It's all about that dynamic flow. There's nothing else that you need to learn. But remember, the body is the instrument, it's not the vocal cords by themselves. Okay, Patricio, nice to meet you. Okay, in Matt Heafy's lesson with Voixtek, he said that he achieves a healthy distorted screaming. Thanks to the use of these nasal cavities. Can you explain a little bit how this works? Okay. Okay. Wait a minute, this is so organized. Patricia, so to answer your question, why does the distorted sound happen? When you start going into that direction that I've been explaining earlier today with the push out, if you push out your abdominal cavities and you keep that consistent flow of air so that you don't eliminate all the air at once, you are being able to start guiding your sound into your upper cavity. When you guide your sound into your upper cavity, you are projecting the sound through your mask. And that mask, what is the mask? The mask is all the association of all the bones that we have in our face, but we have to take into consideration what's inside that mask. We have inside ourselves the sinus cavities. The sinus cavities are several holes that we have inside. Some of them are in the front, some of them are here in the frontal area, some of them are the maxilla, some of them are, if you create a diverse transverse line between your face and you look at yourself from the profile, you're going to see that we have a lot of little holes in this cavity area. So when you start to recognize how your body transitions those elements and creates sound, you know how to place that sound and make that grittiness happen. So when he was doing this motions, and when we did this video before, was that he was raising the lips as much as he could so that he can get into the gritty aspect of it into the nasal cavity. Why? Because that's alleviating the closure of the throat right there. So if you go, you're always going to be able to develop more grit as you go in the transition of sound with the frequency of the keys of the piano. So in any instrument, you're going to have the capacity to alleviate and to connect what sounds best. So again, you're going to go. You can position it right there and not position it in your chords themselves, because if you position it in your chords themselves, you're going to start going, and that's where the break happens. You see? So most of us are not used to transitioning the elements into the sinus cavities so that we can create that and be safe by doing so. And that's the element of surprise, because we are telling people, hey, let's not focus on our training being just on the vocal cords. I heard the other day somebody saying that you have to zip it up, zip your vocal cords up, and that zip line is like, oh, you have to close the 2/3 of the cords and then open the 2/3 of the back of the cords. How are you gonna do that? I mean, you cannot know where the vocal cords are. Most people don't even know where they are. And now that you've seen the videos, now you have a better understanding where the vocal cords are located. Now, from that video, you understand that the whole element of the instrument of the body as sound, you are a wind instrument yourself. And that's how you save your vocal cords from damage. Because when you start to understand the dynamic flow of the abdominal cavity, positioning the diaphragm and the system of the diaphragm in lock place, the contraction of the diaphragm is going down, you are keeping the lung in a higher capacity, and you also are creating an anti-gravitational air fluidity that is not going and pushing out really fast. You're making that air travel light. And when you travel light, now all the facial expressions and all the exercises that we're giving you in the Voixtek method are going to start guiding you into that routine. When you create that routine in your body, you're going to start to understand how that makes a change into how you produce the sound. And you're going to start to understand how much that opens up the voice. Because it's antagonistic, but until you do it, you will not understand what's happening. So following the guidelines and following how the exercises happen is what's going to make your body go into that routine so that you can appropriate and embed that knowledge and make it yours. Make it second nature. Don't follow the sound of the notes by themselves. If you follow the sound of the notes by themselves, you're going to just go into an application that tells you, okay, here, I have my keyboard and I'm just going to hit a C note and all you hear is a sound and you're going to try to emulate that sound. That is the same as trying to emulate another singer. You see, no, you have to follow the sound and the frequency with how you activate your instrument. You have to think of yourself as a flute. You have to think of yourself as a piano. And when that happens, the registrations will open because you're opening the musculature. You're opening the voice. Opening the voice literally is opening the musculature of the trachea, is opening the musculature of that hose that's in there. And we're not opening the hose just by itself. We're opening all the muscles that are surrounding that. So that takes practice. We don't go to the gym and we don't go to lose our weight and we just go once. We just have to continuously apply that same punch at the same time so that our body goes into that routine and changes that dynamic of the airflow. If that dynamic of the airflow is not changed and we're always focusing our sound into the throat, we're going to never allow our bodies to rest, and we're not going to feel the confidence in the voice that we need. That voice needs confidence. You need confidence. You need to know how to release that air and dramatically project it with no pain. That pain has to go. The vocal cords are going to be open. The vocal cords are going to fly like butterflies, as we explained before in the Matt Heafy video as well, because you are supporting with your abdominal cavity the diaphragm. As the diaphragm contracts and goes down, then the lungs will continue to have that space open, but now your body is going into that dance routine. You're going to be going all the way up and all the way down with one breath, which also eliminates the need to take another breath in between the songs. You are going to have the capacity to go from here just one breath, because you're not releasing the air right away. So getting that routine going is going to make that situation happen for your body. You're going to understand. Your body's going to understand because your body is intelligent. But we don't listen to our bodies. We don't listen to what's happening inside the body. We're not listening to what's the blockage. What does that mean? Why is my vocal cord closing? Why can't I reach that note? Well, that's why. All you have to do is change your dynamic flow. That dynamic flow that the body is giving you. You have to learn how to play your instrument. If you don't learn how to play your instrument, you're just trying to sing songs from other artists, or you're creating your own art without understanding how your instrument works. Let's make a differentiation here. You know, most of us, we go into music thinking that music is singing. And yes, the two of them are together. But music is a compilation of instruments that, you know, they're all by themselves interacting and layered down, and then they create a music bed. But we think that we are just going to fit every music bed just because of the music bed. No, you have to understand your instrument so that that instrument becomes another part of that layer in the music bed. But if we go with what we don't know and we try to sing opera, we're not going to be able to sing opera because that is not our thing. You know, I only like rock. But if you control your instrument, you're just another instrument that plays on top of that layer. What that instrument will do for you is that will be able to make you completely confident and identify your voice, your uniqueness. And that's what's going to make you confident. That's what's going to make you really project your sound the way that you're supposed to sound, not the way that you are trying to emulate because I want to sound like Axl, I want to be Axl. No, you got to sound like yourself. And then that's what the problem lies. I hope that that's answering a lot of questions. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let me take a look at the chat room. Oh, Tamara, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm getting more relaxed now because I'm more into understanding what's going on with the chat room and all this stuff because, okay, here it is. Mariana, where exactly is the middle of the belly? I am asking just because I've been told to push belly in for high notes. Yes, Mariana, that's exactly what we just said. So yeah, the belly is just the belly is an element of all the muscles together of the oblique abdominals and the frontal abdominals, and that's making it completely clear that when we pressure that abdominal cavity, we're keeping that diaphragm low, and we're allowing the air to resonate more into the upper cavities of the resonant factors in the second story of our face, which is our nose. Don't worry about that. You're going to be sounding nasal. You're not going to sound nasal when you start to learn how to practice the exercises, because you're going to be expanding the cavities that are going to allow you to resonate really naturally. If you are pushing it, yes, if you try to get into that space, it becomes really nasal and it's going to sound horrible. But if you know how to control the exercises and you start opening those cavities, you're going to feel the presence and you're going to start to understand how that moves up. And we have many cases that we're going to be presenting soon of people that actually had a lot of trouble with the vocal cords. And then after applying the technical skill and applying the understanding, because that's all we need. All we need is to understand how to practice the exercises. And we're not just saying this because, it just happens that we want to share it with the world and we just want to make money. No, what we're doing here is that we are representing a technical skill that's been present for 50 years. I tried to show you the story of our lives. I tried to show you why we started to incorporate the art and the science of singing together, so that throughout all this research, throughout all this investigation that we've followed for so many years, we want to share with you what our findings have been, because every time that we have been into a concert, which we've been to so many artists, and every recording studio, we see what's going on with the artist. And it's just a matter of one simple modification. And in the next webinars that we create, and we hope we have a little bit more order now from this experience, I'm sure that we're going to be doing fine. But we're going to be explaining to you a lot more of how the technical skill works. This has been our first one, and I feel like we're getting better at this, and we're going to answer another question. Okay, what are some of the most common remedies to recover from a sore throat after a long night of singing, aside from sleeping and not speaking? Okay, Chichi, nice to meet you, Chichi. I love your name. Okay, so the most common remedies to recover from a sore throat after a long night of singing is you have to warm up correctly before you go into a long night. That's the thing that most people don't get. Most people go into a concert and they try to warm up just by practicing sounds, just by doing the lip trills, and just by going, they don't know what they're doing. That's why it's important that the performance of each exercise is done correctly, because you just don't go to a gym and you just jump on every machine without not knowing what you're doing. You don't go boxing and you just throw punches in the air just like that. You have to know where those punches are going. Although all the way, every discipline has the same dynamics. They have techniques. They have a developmental skill. And if everybody is aiming at doing a warm-up just by practicing lip thrills by themselves without any functionality in the body, as we have been explaining it, then you are going to get tired after the song. First of all, you should not get a sore throat at all. At all. Doesn't matter how many songs you have sung. If you're having that, then you're not warming up correctly. So after that, if you have a sore throat, yes, you do need vocal rest for sure. And you need to start practicing exercises that are going to guide your body to become the instrument. Don't think about your vocal cords as the instrument. That is your mistake. And it can be very easily corrected, Chichi. We can always change that in any case, just by having a good lesson and a good understanding. Every exercise has a different purpose. Every exercise is going to show you a different routine, but always the dynamic flow. The dynamic flow that we represented our initial videos, and the dynamic flow, you have to change your body as an instrument. You have to learn how to play yourself. Sergio Belez, when is the next class? We're going to be doing this the first Wednesday of every month. And we're going to have a topic for you guys, and hopefully we're going to be streaming it live on other platforms now that we are understanding a little more how to use this Zoom session. And maybe we can do one in person at some point. If anybody wants to have a private lesson and have a private guidance, you're more than welcome to send us a ticket on support@voixtek.com. And somebody will reply to you, and then we can have a conversation, a more in-depth conversation of what I was explaining here today briefly. But just follow us on our social media networks. Try to register for the free trial at least, and then make sure that you understand the passages of the air as your body is making sure that you are playing the right notes at the right time. Thank you, Constantine. That's so nice of you. You did great and went with the flow. Well, I hope so. It's all a matter of experience, and this is my first one for all of you. Mariana, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here for the first time. And the next time we will be able to have a little bit more of an interactivity and a better conversation, so that we can answer the questions from you directly and everybody can see what's happening. So we got to set it up as a meeting. This was set up as a webinar. I'm not very, I don't understand this too well, but for August the 4th, we're going to be sending you all the information about the next webinar, and we make sure that you have all the emails and everything that is needed from here. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Constantine. Thank you, everybody else that was in the room. Alina, I hope you guys understood this. I know it's hard to get it at first, but it's a proven method. There's nothing else to say about it. It has helped everybody. And maybe I was a little weird at explaining it at first, but it works. It's the only way that artists have been able to convert their voices when they have been in trouble. It's the only way that you are going to be able to develop your instrument with confidence, to become confident about who you are. It's the only way that you can have longevity in your voice, and is the only way that you are going to avoid damaging your vocal cords, because there's a way. You have your instrument, your body. Your instrument is your body, not your vocal cords by themselves. Yes, the vocal cords fluctuate and they create sound, but there comes a point in time where there comes a break, and that break has to go forever, because the change in the dynamic flow of your body will make you you. Your voice is you. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your patience. Please forgive me if I went a little cuckoo, but all is good from now on. And have a good one. And we'll be attentive to cuckoo's the best. Thank you, Sergio. I hope I can meet you in person someday. It was very difficult to see who was here. I actually was waiting to see faces. So a lot of patience with this, but send us an email, tell us how we did. Please tell us what can we improve so that you guys can understand better. And next time we'll show you the videos without any interruptions. Everybody was calling from the gate, from food delivery, all at once. I guess we should set it up at a different time because it was noon. So I don't know what's going on in the world, but I appreciate everybody. Much love and peace, and sing well. Bye-bye.